Hello, Namaskar, and welcome to this special episode on Pakistan, recent conflict which we have seen between India and Pakistan. And today I have a very eminent guest who really doesn't require any introduction. He's a veteran who has served for most of his life in Jammu and Kashmir, and also served as a corps commander in Jammu and Kashmir. Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, sir, welcome, and thank you for giving me the time, sir.
Thank you, Raja. Thanks.
Sir, how do you see what happened in Pahalgam and then Operation Sindoor? How do you place this whole thing of why Pakistan did what it did?
So, firstly, let me say that besides having served 7 tenures in Kashmir, I have got large number of tenures along rest of the international border with Pakistan, and I have been in places where Pakistan was a subject for me to understand and analyze. And one thing came very clear to me is that to actually understand Pakistan is not so easy, right? The only thing you can possibly very clearly identify is they will follow money trail wherever it goes. If it goes to China, they'll follow China. If it goes to America, they'll go to America. And in case they have to get money, they can do anything for themselves or to themselves to achieve. So, Pahalgam is another symptom, you know, uh, of what Pakistan actually is, where power, money, control over people is absolutely important because once you are riding this tiger called radical tiger, then it's very difficult to let go and get off the high horse. And this is what exactly Pakistan army is doing. They realize that today, if their relevance starts going down for whatever reason, and it's going down very fast amongst the people of Pakistan who are now not getting enough money because they were right in the center of the American requirement because of geopolitical location. But as Taliban has now come back in its own in Afghanistan, and Americans are not much interested in this region, except for possibly balancing China. Role of Pakistan has come down and the funds have started drying up, right? Their economy is in tatters. So as the economy goes down, the people become frustrated. They start coming back to Pakistan army, which has all got the money and power and everything. And they start holding them accountability. And I think a very common slogan which today goes out in Pakistan itself is Dahshat Gardi ke piche vardi hai. I think everybody knows that.
Yes.
So somewhere this gentleman Asim Munir, I'm sorry, not a gentleman, this chap Asim Munir.
We call him Mullah Munir.
Mullah Munir. Raja, it is easier for you to call Mullah Munir. But if I call him as a Mullah Munir, so as a soldier, as a military professional, and also being, what he has said, we are two different people, it becomes that much maybe incorrect for me to make a statement. So, yes, absolutely what he's saying is his past is actually steeped into radicalization. So now having locked up Imran Khan, which is the most important, powerful leader as of now, who by the way happens to be a Pashtun himself, right? They have started sending out Pashtuns outside the country. The fractures have become much more obvious. Balochis hitting them here and back and forth, a train being hijacked for a significant period of time, right under the nose of. It's a military state actually, right? ISI is supposed to know everything. Tribal areas, they're bombing their people out of on the ground by air, by helicopters, by artillery shells. There is a trouble, and he knows that the moment he steps down or the power weakens, the possibility of Imran Khan coming back is huge, right? So their coterie of courts, everything can't help them. and then he'll also have to hide somewhere in the corner. Pahalgam was a very, very, very great case study in terms of why it happened at Pahalgam itself and the way it happened. As per me, he was baiting India to do something outrageous, come after Pakistan, because he understands one thing, that when India is referred, because of the possible region polarized on religion, the entire Pakistan will get together under the flag of, not under the flag of Pakistan, but under the flag of Islam. And that is why his address on 16th April is very important to note, right? And that is how the application of force of killing brutally by identifying through religion, right? Who's Hindu is killed and pulled your pants down. And thereafter, the process itself reeked of a very, very extreme instigation, baiting, which was being carried out by Asim Munir. Because that is how any response which will happen because BJP is supposed to be a right wing, has been painted as a Hindus only kind of a party. In the international arena, for the people of Pakistan, it will become Islam versus Hindu, right? And that is how the hit happened. The second reason why Pahalgam happened is also because 5 years of peace and prosperity in Kashmir. Please understand, every time Kashmir is peaceful, Pakistan comes back with new strategy, new hit, right? Look at the history, right?
Yes.
You signed a standstill agreement on 47. So the country which is premised on stabbing in back, on unhappiness of peace in the region. I'm not talking of Jammu and Kashmir. When Afghanistan is peaceful, they are not happy, right? Any country in the region is happy. They can't look after their own people, so they get after people to make them unhappy. So Jammu Kashmir standstill agreement was broken. In 1971, when they realized that East Bengal is not with them, they went after them. Bangladesh got created. So it is somewhere in the nature to not see people happy. And the economic prosperity, which is being witnessed, the benefits of peace, which was being drawn by Kashmiris, people of Jammu and Kashmir, was obviously very disheartening for the leadership. And more so when POJK started comparing themselves, what is development happening in this thing, and there were people coming out in the streets, there were demands that we want to go to Modi. These things, it is very infuriating for a country's leadership. And therefore, hitting at a very important place like Pahalgam made an eminent sense. And in the manner of division of Hindu-Muslim kind of a thing. And also trying to tell Kashmiris that you are all Muslims. So you need to bind with us. And larger population of Muslims in India also talking about the division. So there were a number of symbolism to hit Pahalgam in the manner it was hit, right?
But sir, my question to that would be, when we look at Pakistan and we look at the internal fault lines in Pakistan, if we look at what is happening within Pakistan, within the Muslims of Pakistan, let's say it's, people from Pashtuns, from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, from Balochistan, or we have seen bombings of Madrasa Haqqaniya, we have seen killings happening in Karachi. Don't you think that Islam in itself is failing in Pakistan? It's failing, that whole concept of Islam is failing in Pakistan?
Correct. So I will dial back to the history of Pakistan. There are two things which people believe, and Asim Munir has talked of it in his speech. That I think he said that kalma ke upar banne wala dusra desh, the second country which has been formed based on kalma,
yes,
is Pakistan. I think he referred to Saudi Arabia.
He referred to Makkah, yes.
To Makkah. And
to Medina. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not so.
Yeah, modern day Saudi Arabia. That is correct.
So
modern day Saudi.
The second one he talks of is Pakistan, right? So again, let me just debunk that theory. And the second point, he said, we had to work very hard. Violence, he says, we have got Pakistan after great effort. Right. So both I want to debunk. The first theory which comes out is debunking because there are so many countries which have been formed on basis of the religion.
56 in OIC,
Yeah.
to be honest.
So, where Islam is the only religion, right? And they refer themselves to be as Islamic. Second is that this country was not formed premised on Islam. It premised on people of rest of Bharat, the Muslims of Bharat, who were in very, very prominent positions, power positions. They possibly felt that what will happen to us, right? And then when democracy comes and the voting starts happening, there is a possibility of a Hindu majority coming up, and obviously, it will happen. That worry was not felt by where Muslims were dominating. Punjab, Pak Punjab, they didn't feel about it. Sindh, they're not worried about it. So was Baluchis. These people were just not worried about these issues. So if you see the demand of Muslim League, the way so-called Pakistan was to be carved out, it is not the present Pakistan. It was supposed to be carved out by including large chunks of UP, large chunks of this thing. It was Hyderabad, and stuff like that. If you see the map Junagadh, which they had, where the map which they have put out, it was actually a very funny desire of this thing. So they thought that wherever we are in eminence, will continue to remain, right? But that was not possible. So when they had gone to the Britishers, when the thought of independence started coming about and Islamic thing started coming out, somewhere in 30s or 34, around that time. So then they went to the Britishers. Britishers said, buzz off, right? There was also a time when Jinnah realized that he will not get the eminent position in Bharat, larger India, right? Because Nehru was going to be favorite of this chap, Gandhi, and yes. In spite of everything, Patel will not become the prime minister, but of course, Nehru will always be close. So actually, he shut shop, political shop, and he went to his barristergiri. He started doing his barrister's job, right? It is when after 45, when the Britishers realized that it's going to be difficult for them to manage India. And it was not about, a lot of people feel because they didn't have the finances, because this was the finance part,
Yes.
Human resource,
generated the entire World War II, war machinery, the whole funding was
including HR, right? Including soldiers and everything, which doesn't find mention in their history.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely, they don't.
And of course, the resource material which went, money which went from here. So then when they realized that we have to leave this place, their mind had two issues. One is that they had a hatred for our country, our region. They got hatred for almost everybody.
They still have it.
Yeah, there's an upper lip syndrome. We are more different and superior.
The white
race,
man's superiority.
Touch which they had, and the colonial thing. They had lived a life of richness for too long. How could they let? And mind you, they have not done the same to us. They have done to all countries which they have left. They have left them in Shumazel, actually. So they were not very happy. And Churchill, who was there, totally that redneck kind of a person, his comments, if you read about India, you will come to know what was actually going in their mind. So they did not want to leave us in a state of possibility of peace. So actually, Muslim League idea was not so prevalent even few years before the independence was to be given. And then they get Jinnah, right, out of the barristership. He was already in UK and doing his job and all. And they called him and said, okay, we'll get you a country which you want, right, to fracture this large subcontinent. The second was that there was geostrategic compulsion. That time leadership was based on ideology, based on looking after people 1st, population, and that aligned to this idea of socialism, which is quite near to communism. Right? So that is a time when there is a two streams of political ideology were coming, and that is one was communism / socialism, while they are slightly different, and of course capitalism or democracy based this thing. And then they did want to have a certain degree of affiliation attachments happening with Soviet Union, right? After Second World War, Soviet Union came out to be much more powerful, right? Again, history is written by the so-called victors, and as the language is, the colonial language was always English, and we all are talking in English, and the top leadership was of English, and English language became preeminent. So the stories and movies and everything has been made by the Brits and Americans, right, to celebrate success of Second World War. But truly, when I study history, the people who should be credited by winning the Second World War were the Soviets, right? Because they had the maximum number of people killed. They fought from day one onwards.
And they literally pushed them out of Germany and got into Germany.
And so when the Americans and Brits realized that Soviets will actually take over the entire Germany, so they struck that deal and all, if you recall.
East and West Germany.
So we'll not get into details. So that is how they want to carve a space between the two, Soviet and India. Right. Otherwise, when you imagine this world, Soviet Union and India joining this thing, with Afghanistan being actually an independent country, the scenario would have been totally different. Land route, access. Of course, the division and breaking down of Soviet Union happened eventually later. So that was playing in their mind. And that is why their more interest was in an unknown area of Gilgit-Baltistan and the stretch of POJK. They positioned one of the masters player, Major Saab in Gilgit-Baltistan, who actually did everything which is unethical to ensure that Gilgit-Baltistan, who's totally different from Pak Punjab, right, fell in the hands of the Pakistanis.
And Pakistanis blundered it, no, sir? Yeah. Because they acceded to Pakistan, and Pakistan rejected their accession and said, no, you are a part of a problem with Jammu and Kashmir. So they created a blunder for themselves as well.
No, but then, they did. So there's an acceptance. But the Britishers never wanted that to happen.
Right.
So they ensured that GB came to them. Right. And therefore, this permanent slice of land, which looks like a dog's head, remained with Pakistan and divided between us. So this was the reason why it came out. So nobody actually fought on the streets or gave blood to get Pakistan. Yes, there were some people who became Muhajirs, right, who moved from Bihar, UP, who were very, very eminent people. And most of the eminent people, by the way, stayed back.
Yes.
But those poorer lot who thought and who were mind-shaped, they left and went to Pakistan. And they continue to be treated with aberration. They're not like there.
Till
today. And even now, look at this thing which I have talked in so many other channels. Ziaul Haq, Musharraf, Asim Munir, all three have gone from Delhi, Punjab. Right. So Musharraf has gone from Delhi. Ziaul Haq and Asim Munir belong to Jalandhar, their families. So the hatred for them, to their mother country is immense because they had to vacate and go. The second hatred is also, the second need is they have to continue to prove to Pakistan that they are loyal to Pakistan. And then comes the other challenge in case of Asim Munir. He comes from an Imam family, studied in madrasas, right? He is an Hafiz who went to Saudi Arabia and became a Hafiz. And he needs to prove that I can be a radical Hafiz, Islamist, and oh, by the way, I can also be a general of an army, right? So there are contradictions because military forces are professional forces, and religion and profession generally doesn't
it doesn't gel well.
It doesn't gel well actually. right? You may continue to quote from scriptures, but when you start looking at, flying the flag and fighting under the flag of religion, then you are not representing a state. Then you are representing a religious organization. It's more like religious ideology, right? And then, if I'm not wrong, what I'm given to understand is Asim Munir happens to be a Shia as well, right?
No, he's
It may
not,
be,
sir.
yeah. So a lot of people talk him to be a Shia,
But he's not,
but
sir.
his wife is a Shia.
Okay, no.
Check. I think check.
I
There's
will check.
something to do
It
about.
cannot be, sir, because in Pakistan's constitution, it's clearly written that if you're not
Yeah,
a follower of Khatb Nubuwwat, you cannot hold either a post of army chief, either a post of, what do you call it, prime minister or a president. On the contrary, and General Bajwa's wife was Ahmadiyya.
Yeah, she was Ahmadiyya.
She was Ahmadiyya, but
She
this guy is pure
Okay.
Sunni.
No, but his wife is a Shia.
No, sir, that is a myth
Again,
which
a
is
myth.
going on. Yeah.
Okay,
That's
maybe. So,
Yeah.
but then he has to now prove. And again, look at this. He comes from that academy, which was a short service academy, right? Shut down. And rest of the Pakistan Army officers coming from Kakul, which is a much more preeminent academy. He's a sword of honor, right? There. These are all those issues which he carry on shoulder to continue to prove that I am good. I am far better than others. He's a survivor. He's a radical who needs to stay on top.
I have
And
his
that is
photographs.
why he becomes very dangerous.
Yes, because I have one of his photographs when he was a major. And under that photograph is written Major Asim Munir, Sayyid Asim Munir, Deceiver.
Yeah.
It's an official photograph. It's titled as Deceiver. That's how dangerous he was from day one, sir. But sir, I want to ask you a follow-up question on this. When you said that he's a decorated officer, sir, look at most of the Pakistani generals or colonels. They wear so many medals. They've never won a war. What are these medals for?
Yeah, I also actually I saw that photograph in which he's wearing very
They're all very decorative.
Yeah,
but what is the decoration of self-defeat? How would we explain that decoration?
Maybe that decoration is to be egoistic, of having killed people in Balochistan, of having killed people in their tribal areas, of having killed people in their own country in Pakistan, Pak Punjab. I think these are meant for those.
Show trophies?
Yeah, show trophies, I guess. I'm quite amazed actually to see the kind of ribbons they wear.
So coming back to Pahalgam, do you think it was an intelligence failure? It was an intel failure?
I would love to blame everything to intelligence, to security forces. More so when I'm retired, as a veteran, I can keep on saying, because in my time, there was no failure. I was a co-commander and sab kuch acha tha us time pe, ab sab kuch kharab hai. Why don't people talk of thousands of attacks which have been failed? Nobody talks of it.
True.
Right.
Success, nobody,
So, nobody
celebrates.
talks of.
Failures, everybody celebrates.
So, it is so easy to come out and blame everybody. The government, the chief minister, the LG, the police, the army, intelligence failure, everything. Those people who are blaming for intelligence failure, those terrorists were living amongst them. These terrorists live among people.
True.
Right? So why don't the people participate in giving this intelligence or information? Right? It has not happened that they have just para-dropped in one day and they have carried out this operation and gone.
No, as per intel, they had infiltrated for quite some time, and then
there's a whole thing, and there will be mistakes and errors. The country which is most celebrated for its intelligence, tech and human intelligence is right. On 7th October, what happened, what Hamas did, in broad daylight, they came in and sorted out Israel.
Yes.
Which is a very, very open country, which is not like Pahalgam. Dense forests, mountains, rivers, stuff like that. And they did not come in, Hamas did not come in one place. They breached at multiple places. They came and they took 160, 70 odd hostages along with them. 176 hostages. This has happened in a country which has got the best financial support in terms of tech for intelligence, for surveillance,
Yes.
for human intelligence, and is renowned for it, right? So in a cycle of 4 to 5 years, if we fail in once, the cost is huge, right? But then let's credit the intelligence apparatus of what they have achieved, right? Yes, they failed this time, right? But a committed enemy will find space, time to surprise you at some place or other. You just come, and we are not a military state. We are not a dictatorship in which everybody. You imagine that day when Pahalgam happened, number of our channels were running pictures that civilians being checked.
Yes.
I hope you remember
Yes.
that
Completely.
there are two soldiers standing and people have come out from the bus. They are wearing Ferran and their I card is
Yes.
being checked. Some of them were the real time and some were all old footage.
They were all old footage.
Right. Because this is a warm season. There's no Ferran which is
Ferran.
being worn.
And we don't do it anymore. ID cards are not checked at all now.
Even
That
if
was
it's
in the
being
90s and
checked,
2000s.
in case there's an incident just happened and you have to now pick out,
Hmm.
what do? You are
You
not going to strip. You are not ISI that will pick up people and take them home and thereafter strip search and do things to them.
True.
Right? So it is so easy for people to come back after the security apparatus. If it becomes firm, we are anti-democratic, we are militaristic. If they let loose a little bit and this happens, then what were you doing? Right. So it is very easy. I don't want to sit on judgment on anybody. Yes, I think we failed, and I'm adding we because
Understandable.
having retired, you can't let go of your responsibilities. Whatever we invested, we'll get to see now today. So I don't think so. We failed technically in that sense.
So, do you think Operation Sindoor has set up a deterrence with this committed enemy?
Yeah, people will want to believe, but I am more of a cynical, pragmatic realist, right? I'm also an optimist, but I'm truly, I switch very easily between being realist and optimist. This country's nature is revisionist, right? A country which is moving from so-called secular ideology, right, where Jinnah tried to sell to the world. But the underlying reason of creating Pakistan was for Islam.
Yes.
Right. See the tightrope, the dichotomy which they have. And then in the world, they will continue to go out, try and sell themselves as a modern nation state. Right. But yet, talking of primarily to going back to a 7th century ideological
thoughts,
choice, to start believing that they will change their nature is very difficult, right? Not so easy. It will take a couple of generations when education reforms happen in Pakistan to start becoming modern, to start becoming at peace. They're not at peace with themselves. How can they be at peace with us? When they're still killing Ahmadiyyas, Bohras, they are bombing Shias, they are trying to find that perfect Islam.
They're even killing their own fellow Sunni Muslims now. So they started doing that.
That's right. Because, they eventually want to say that this is the perfect Islam and there's no perfect Islam. Which book are you going to start believing in?
No, that is true.
Right. And Islam also gets modified through culture.
And there is no perfect religion anyway.
There's no perfect religion, and it should get adopted. You look at Bangladesh, right? The woman used to be Muslim, but used to wear dresses which were culturally required to be worn.
True.
Right? Not borrow the dresses which come from Saudi Arabia, because there it was a tribal-driven environment where if the woman exposed and saw by other tribesmen, she will be picked up and taken because women were always in erstwhile times were property, were possessions to be sold, bartered, given away, taken, controlled. They were like camels and everything else. So Islam came out with a different reason, but it has not been able to temper with the culture there.
Culture.
So when Islam came to India, also it got adjusted, adopted to culture. So in Bangladesh, as late as 10 years back, the women, even now, you look at Sheikh Hasina, she wears
She wears her
sari.
sari.
She is not wearing the so-called dress which is worn by this thing.
Yes.
But the people who want to go to that perfect Islam, as followed by in Saudi Arabia, right? Not even by Saudi Arabia. Even in Saudi Arabia, there are layers and tribes who believe that we are the perfect
Yes.
followers
there is no
of.
perfection there.
So you know,
they also have.
yeah. So when you are competing for that perfection, you are going to only change and get away from your own culture, right? And that is where I find it sad. So while you may belong to a place like Amroha, where mangoes come, but then say कि हम तो सिर्फ खजूर खाएंगे, ठीक है? Because that is what the Prophet had.
True.
So then your ideology
is a problem.
Becomes very, very difficult. So I will not eat mangoes. I will not eat bananas because so you get sands, you get camels, and you start living that life. That is how you can be a perfect life.
So how do we fight this ideological battle then, this enemy, sir?
Yeah, the way it has to be, actually it has to be fought by the people themselves, right?
Okay.
Because I don't want to get into the layers from Hanafi to Barelvi to what you call Al Hadith, then to ISIS, to Al Qaeda. Which one is the finest and the bestest? Because something else will come. Absolutely. Eventually, after this, it will say
it keeps on metasizing.
Yeah, it will keep on revising itself, right? To much more a hard line and a perfectionist, if I say so. So this has to be actually reviewed by the people who follow the faith. You know, people from outside can't do much about it. The moment you start doing anything from outside, immediately there'll be a fight back. So the silent majority have to start looking at they want to treat the children, daughters as property eventually in this modern society. Because you imagine the same people who ran away from the atrocities of their mother countries, right? Of either the religion or of their leadership, which was again ruling them through religion.
True.
They went where? They went to Europe, right? They went to America. And what are they doing there?
They want to have the same thing what they had in their own country.
Right. So unfortunately, even those people who run away from the atrocities at home, when they go back to the country which is welcomed them,
a liberal, democratic, open societal country.
So they have used the same democratic system. It is not planned, but somewhere that mind remains. So I think firstly, I think it's a very new religion. Right? It's still too. I'm not a religious person or a person who's so steeped in it. But you have asked me a question, then I look at this. It will play out, right? It will either play out to destroy itself, right? Because eventually there will be larger number of people who will start getting disenchanted by the preachers. Because eventually it is not what is written in the book. It is the people in between who are modifying and controlling the levers, right? And so they will reform, and there will be some other religions will come about, or they'll shift and change to modern religion. Because eventually, when the women start speaking their voice, then the change will happen, right? Right now they are suppressed. But you look at Taliban or rule country today. The 12th class, there's no girls' education.
No girls' education.
And those who were studying in the universities are slowly also being weeded out. Eventually, you'll find virtually 50% population voiceless, heardless, and maybe that is what Islam meant. Maybe that is what it's meant. So people have to decide what they want to follow.
Sir, I want to ask you, how do you see the 4-day engagement between India and Pakistan as a military man? How would you summarize it?
Yeah, so a lot of people felt that we should go to war, we should destroy when the enemy is down, we must achieve that. Keep on rolling the enemy punish him. Those people.
Yes, there is an overwhelming sentiment
Yeah.
in India that this time let's crush them so that
Right.
they don't rise quickly
So
enough.
wars are fought on rational thought, right? Or military instrument or the kinetic force is applied on rational thought. The moment it gets used in emotional thought, it always hits a wall, right? And the rational thought said that for what they have done in Pahalgam, should we go to a full-fledged war or should we punish the perpetrators? And I think the government of India has always been rational. Not today, has been always been so. And that may be termed as our weakness. But if it is our weakness, I think it's a good weakness because we continue to prosper and progress, right? Unlike Pakistan, where the Pak Punjabis rule the roost on emotions, right? So, there's a governor, that bum, who yesterday I saw a video in which there's a small little aircraft kind of a Rafale has been
Yes.
made, and he comes out and there are people who are looking. He's into a suit, wearing a tie and a fatso of a thing. And there's key oil which has been, or petrol which has been poured, and thereafter he comes and lights that aircraft with India flag. And thereafter he stands and he's having a cup of tea and saying, "Is bar we had called them this thing, but they are very scared. They left only the aircraft and the pilots have gone away and we couldn't capture any." So when people who are dramas, and you look at their other video which I just saw while coming to you was there's a video, there's a television studio in which somebody who's trying to copy General G.D. Bakshi with the mustaches and all, and he comes and jumping and all. The people who are living on emotion and drama will never have a rational thought. While they feel that they are committing these harakiris like Pahalgam and Pulwama through a rational planning, but they are being driven by a radical thought, not rational thought. It's a radical thought which thinks that responses will come the way they desire. But unfortunately, a rational thought will always defeat a radical thought.
But sir,
so I think the rational thought had looked at getting a military objective, right? A political objective and a psychological objective. All three were achieved on the first day.
You made an important, very, very, very important point that the psychological, objective was met. But sir, I think that what I observed, because I was observing it very closely, on the information warfare, it was just that we were instilling that psychological defeat into the Pakistanis. The day we declared ceasefire is the day they had just started coming out saying that we want a ceasefire. Don't you think that it was a bit premature? We should have given them another day or so and, completely put that defeat in their minds so that could have been percolated deep inside Pakistan by the Pakistanis, because the moment ceasefire happened, the same Pakistanis who had started crying started coming out and started changing their colors again.
So, a country which can ignore 93,000 prisoners of war, right, and yet claim victory. Bangladesh came out of that country. I don't want to say that India created Bangladesh. I think Pakistan created Bangladesh. So, when Musharraf can go and talk about Kargil defeat as a success, right? So, a country which is being shaped through an ideology which is centrally controlled through mosques, masjids, the mullah and military, when they work in hand, then it's very difficult to shape and tell them that you have been defeated. A country which still continues to believe that doesn't have food to eat, but yet when the Prime Minister comes out and says that economically we are not anymore weak, and starts believing their own lies, it is very difficult to find that level to achieve destruction or sending a message to say that the Pakistanis will start feeling the pinch, because they will get up after being dusted to the ground, and then they will start selling. They smoke something very, very dangerous, and that is that opium of religion, which will ensure that they'll start believing that The God Almighty has given the strength. We have won, right?
True.
So it is very difficult to take this country out of the cycle of that thought, right? So how much more time should have India, Bharat invested in Pakistan
Mhm.
to make it to prove to them that you have lost? I think the moment Pakistan DGMO has come out and said that we want to stop, that's good enough. And this started on day one. If they had done it on day one, that was good enough. Day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. So till when do you think would have been good? So I think what happens when it happens is the right time. And I'm totally with the armed forces, the government, that they took a call to allow that ceasefire to happen. And this is what we are announcing. Now, throughout the time, you kept on saying when you come back, you'll forget, you'll reconcile. We'll say, okay, we'll stop.
Mhm.
I don't say want to say ceasefire. We'll stop firing at you. We'll start sorting you out, right? And then when he comes and you still renegade, so we are no more a country of rational thought. We are no more country which stands by its own word. We are no more. So, there is a difference between Bharat, Vishwaguru. It is leading by example. We are not Pakistanis. We are not Pakistan. Let's not try and demean ourselves by trying to achieve.
But I have a
Yeah.
question on that, sir. If you look at Israel, and I don't only want to talk about Israel, I will also bring United States into it. They pursue their active targets. For example, Qasem Soleimani was taken out by the Americans, right? The Israelis keep on taking out Hamas. What stops us from proactively taking out, let's say, Hafiz Saeed in Pakistan in a missile strike, or in a whatever way, or Masood Azhar? Why shouldn't India be proactive in dealing with terrorism with Pakistan from here now on? When we have made a statement on Pakistan, and the Pakistanis have proved themselves to be a terror nation once again. The army was standing behind a terrorist, doing a funeral.
Please understand that the world today is formed of a Western deep state environment. The media, information warfare, the control and the levers of military industrial complex of the deep state, not only in US, but the Western, which is they compete with each other, but they are quite very well connected to each other, and they will not like uh, any other country. So, Soviet Russia was competing, they destroyed Soviet Union. Thereafter, the Russians, because of the very reason, because they have a say in military industrial complex, right? And so is the case with China, because China started making their stuff, they got after the Chinese. It is not about economy, it is all about jobs, it's controls and levers and competition for resources. The world is not yet matured enough, right, to accept that what they do is right, but what India does, the same thing becomes wrong.
But isn't it time
Right.
for us to change that?
So,
Because
may not be. I
May
don't
not
think
be?
so. May not be. It will take time. You see, let's not. We have been till now punching below our weight, much below our weight.
true.
We have started punching not yet, still
In the
our
middle
way.
of the way.
Yeah.
you would say.
We are still much short. But it is important to be gradual. Don't jumpstart, because our systems are not in place. There is a whole supply chain issue. There is a whole system that we have to rely on large number of countries. We don't have that power that we can shut one down, or something like sanctions and all. We are not yet in that stage, right?
Okay.
Like Turkey has supported Pakistan in not only morally, financially, or military equipment, but they have also supported by putting people on the ground to carry out those pilots and technicians,
The drone operations.
the drone
they were
operations. The Chinese have also done the similar thing, right? But is in India in a position to decouple from China and Turkey? Not yet.
Right.
So till the time, the moment you start jumping, getting ahead of yourself,
Mhm.
you'll be in trouble. So right now, let's invest.
That's
We are currently not there yet, right? and may not be another 10, 15, 20 years. Till the time our own industrial complexes come up, our number of things, while we have 1.4 billion people who are consumers available to us, right? But there are a large number of things which rely, starting from semiconductors, which are to get into the niche tech environment. That is where the competition is. Medicines. There are very, very important medicines which are still being outsourced from outside. There are so many other higher end technology which are required to be manufactured. We are nowhere there. Right now, we are a service economy, right? We can only provide services. And also within ourselves, we don't speak on one voice, right? Our love for acknowledgement from the white man is so severe, so deep rooted, that if Rajamuneeb says something will not be accepted, but if somebody else, for
the
example,
same thing is said by a white man, it will be far
yeah,
more.
let me talk of Kashmir only, right?
True.
The Kashmiris, Sunnis seek their ideological moorings and affirmations from Saudi Arabia.
True.
Some go to Kuwait and some to Qatar, where the money comes from, the political backing and support comes from. All the Shias go to Iran. Ideological religion mooring is different, but you need affirmation. Every time elections happen, tell me if I'm wrong, you know Kashmir very well. Every time elections come, majority of the political leaders dial Dubai, dial Saudis. There are people who visit Iran.
Iran, yes.
Right? Yes. Not for funds. No. Funds, they are sucking up the Indian government for that.
Just
right?
For
just to inform. It's become a tradition for so many years.
Yeah.
Right? So that we have got so many voices. I'm just talking about Kashmir. The same is in our entire country. There are people who are spokespeople, persons for China. They're on the roll. There are parties which are on payrolls of deep state, of this bloody idiot called Soros and his team,
The Open Society.
The Open Society. And they're using democracy for a joke, right?
Right.
So till the time you are able to harness the entire population to work in one direction, at least some direction, right? It is very difficult to do what you're wanting to do.
Sir, which I want to ask you a follow-up question on Kashmir after this, and then I'll come back to Operation Sindoor. In one of your podcasts, you said that the election timing in Kashmir wasn't right, if I understood you correctly. Why do you think that timing wasn't right?
No. You see, this misstatement I made was when Srimata Prakash had called me for the TNI podcast. Yes. I just retired within a week or two, so I think I was there. I don't remember the date. And that is the time the elections were happening. And I was asked this question. And I made this statement again, and I'll repeat it. It is always a good time to have an election. Right? But if it was a choice of the people of Kashmir, right? They would have not wanted to have that election. Now the instructions of Supreme Court has come. So we have got no choice. Words to that effect. So when a government takes a decision, it may be not out of choice to go for election or for any other decision. It may be for circumstances which may be political, maybe geopolitical, maybe geostrategic, maybe geoeconomics, maybe legal, right? There can be so many constraints which may push you to take a decision which may not be the right choice for that time. I know for one, and frankly, I may not know the thing, but majority of the people who actually are fond of me from Kashmir, with whom they have remained in touch with me even after my retirement, most of the people, common people whom I had talked, they were very happy with the system. While there were political leaders who were isolated because of the centralized government and stuff like that, there was a large population which was pretty okay, right? Because there was a certain degree of hatred which had come through for the political establishment for playing that role of ambivalence.
Yes.
Okay. And while the Kashmiris themselves are past master of ambivalence,
Yes.
moving the tightrope.
It's the nature of Kashmir. It's the nature of Valley is very ambivalent.
Yeah.
I call it
ambivalent. And you can't help it. It is, again, not 70, 80 years. This is a history of 700 to 800 years of survival. We're just discussing.
Yes.
Before this thing, they didn't have anything to eat. And number of people have written. I'm not the smart guy who's talking of it. Just because I served 7-10 years there doesn't mean that I know Kashmiris.
No, but we learn from history, so we read.
So there is a guy who spent 20 years, I think Lawrence or something.
Yeah.
He writes very, very clearly that they can lie with a straight face.
Jindal Bisco has written about it.
So many people
have
written. So again, if you're looking for a white man's affirmation, there you have, right? But if you're looking at a brown man's affirmation, I can tell you, having stayed there and having my friends there. And again, were they always like this? No. It is the environment which is made. Now the leadership is ambivalent because the environment has made them like this. Our state machineries, our government machineries have also been telling them, unfortunately, you say something anti-India, people will love you. If you want to come back.
अगर रेलेवेंस चाहिए तो आप इंडिया के खिलाफ बोलो, आपको सब कुछ मिलेगा. You say India, आपको कुछ
For 5 years, the Kashmiris started thinking that ambivalence will go. Unfortunately, our central agencies, I think, I may be wrong, they started telling again the political leadership of ambivalence.
Yes.
And therefore, when the election, which was actually being fought on different spectrum, in last, if you notice, in 2-3 weeks, it suddenly became an anti-370 platform.
Or separate identity, Article 370.
Yeah. And more importantly, it became about anti-BJP.
Yes.
And in anti-BJP, it became more about anti-Hindu.
Yes.
So, I'm sure, while it was already nesting somewhere in the mind of the leadership which came to fight the election, but there was certain degree of guidance which have been given to them also. नहीं आप बोलिए कोई बात नहीं होता, आपको आना है पार्टी में तो जीतना है तो बोलना ही पड़ेगा. So this ambivalence is the one which was brought in again, was the most dangerous thing. And thereafter, when the assembly was formed, that ambivalence continued for seeking relevance. So even the Sharma ji or something, the deputy chief minister from Jammu, has to also thump very, very emphatically on that issue of ambivalence. Because people realize that ambivalence is the one which will try to keep them staying in power. So there were so many things which told me that people don't want, there's a compulsion of the government, so be it. Let them taste the music, right? Something good may come out of it, right? So, yeah, but I think people, the government was unlessly coerced to do it. And I don't know why they still went on to take that call to have an election. The political parties themselves didn't want to it, right? They were also surprised when
they were surprised. Yes, they were surprised. Yeah. Sir, coming back to Operation Sindoor, how do you assess the fighting capabilities of Pakistan Army?
When the war, I'll not say war, when the...
It's a limited skirmish, I would call it.
When I study Pakistan, when economy is down, armed forces may garner the entire lion's share for its maintenance. Yet, in a corrupt society as Pakistan it is, and more corrupt in that is Pakistan Army, very little comes down to the thing. So then you happen to buy on debt, on credit line from China, the Chinese stuff, which the Chinese themselves don't believe. It's all well polished, looks very neat.
So this HQ9s and HQ11s?
No, they are pretty good equipment. I will not like to discard them in that manner. They're okay. They're good elements. But when you get that stuff, right, they needs practice, integration, functioning, training. There are so many things. So it may be good in Chinese when the Chinese are functioning, but when it comes here, the Pakistanis need to adapt and integrate in the system.
Okay.
Right. Now you have 2-3 systems. You have this system, you got the American system, you got the Turkish system, and then you got the Pakistan Army, which is again a business venture. It is a political venture. It is a religious venture.
Mhm.
It is not truly a military venture, right?
Right.
So a lot of time, media flashes that the Pakistan Army carried out a major military exercise and so on so place, and the president will come and the prime minister will come and the DS will be brought out. But actually, when you start winding it down, you find that not even 1,000 people were participating. It's a show which was being put up. Our exercises, our activities, our systems of procurement, they may be tedious, but they are still effective, and we keep on getting our stuff. And again, I don't want to get into giving a credit to this government or that government. Maybe this government was able to play around because our economy heft was coming up. Uh, Virtually are all voids in terms of ammunition, and especially in ED ammunition, which I know was huge some time back. All those things have been made up, right? Our own systems of trials of DRDO and stuff like that, like Akash, making of BrahMos, and those systems got played up. So there are a number of things which were in our favor in terms of military establishment and might. So professionally training, professionally relevant, modernizing systems, your own systems getting enmeshed vis-a-vis poorer economy, poor money. Most of their fleets, the submarines are locked. They have, I think, one or two, which is
They had 4 sitting on Karachi port.
yeah. So they just don't have the system to roll out. Look at the fuel. You require fuel to fight a war.
Yes.
Right? They don't have. They had about, for the nation, they had 4 days. Right? So every car had to sit on a curve for their military machine to move. So, everything can't be just fought on ideological or a religious sentiment. You require something to fuel that as well. Right?
So, sir, with this kind of a very weak military infrastructure, training, and everything, do you think the nuclear threat which comes out of Pakistan is far more potent, or is it a bluff which Pakistan keeps on calling, and it is something we should not be paying too much heed to?
So, howsoever irrational this country be, right? Everybody is not a suicide bomber. Even to make a suicide bomber, you have to drug that person, not only on the religion, but truly drug over a period of time.
Right.
You have to really find a cause for which that chap is want to go be a. And majority of the suicide bombers are young kids who are selected for this job, or women who are forced to do it because their family is held to a blackmail.
True.
Right? So while this may be, they may reflect a radical and unstable mindset, right? But there are also people who know that when you will fire that first missile carrying that nuke, you may get destroyed, right? So Pakistan will get obliterated, right? I am quite sure that the levers to launch a nuke is not in the hand of the Pakistan army. It will be in the hand of the Americans, in the hand of deep state, who will be keeping a tab when this resource is moving from one place. Because you see, it's not like taking a pistol out and filling a magazine. It's a process, because the nuke system is kept somewhere. It has to be put into a launcher. It has to be assembled into a projectile. Thereafter, the projectile has to be brought to the launching system. Thereafter, it will be put into a launch. It's just not that you went and got a tractor and put in a Stinger missile and thereafter you move on to launches. It's a whole process, right? And there are enough people who are watching us, Israelis, Americans. The cost of launching a nuke by the Pakistanis is not only going to obliterate Pakistan, is going to affect the world for next 50 years, right? It is not an easy decision. We have the second strike capability. We got the triad, which is there. And we are all locked and loaded to be launched whenever it happens. So while we say no first use, the second is that we have got and we have shown the capacity this time that when you move, we will destroy your nukes on the ground before even you launch.